Hello, everybody. Well, after an international break that felt like it was a month long, we returned to action at the pleasingly as yet unnamed for sponsorship reasons, Molineux, where we'll be hosted by Wolverhampton Wanderers. Kick-off on Easter Monday is at 8:15 p.m, with Sky Sports doing the honours. The gentlemen from Eyes Up Mother Brown will be dribbling Easter eggs all down their fronts on YouTube if you're the sort of person who enjoys live freak shows. So, Wolves then, to give them their full title. It's fair to say that they haven't hit the heights of last season. In fact, but for a useful February in which they picked up 3 wins and 2 draws, they would actually be in real trouble at the bottom. They went winless in the fixture-light month of March, losing to Manchester City 4-1 away, and somehow Liverpool 1-0 at home. Those defeats sandwiching a goalless draw at Villa Park. All of which, and before the Easter weekend fixtures, left them in 13th place with 35 points from the 29 matches played so far. That means they won't be looking over their shoulder too much. However, for context, Newcastle, who currently occupy the first position of safety, now have 29 points. So that February was more than a bit useful then. Daisy, the socially distanced, support-bubbling personal assistant with a beautiful smile, has begrudgingly dragged herself away from the spa facilities, on the grounds that our opponents actually did some business during the January transfer window. They're a bit short-handed up front after the horrific fractured skull suffered by talismanic striker Raul Jimenez. So they brought in Brazilian striker Willian Jose from Real Sociedad. I've got all the accents, you know. The loan deal keeps the forward in the Midlands until the end of the season, with Wolves having an option to make the arrangement permanent in the summer. Being on loan is not a novelty for Jose, who, since making his debut for his first club, Barueri, has been on loan with, pause for breath, Deportivo Maldonado, who disappointingly are based in Uruguay rather than Essex, Sao Paulo, Gremio, Santos, Real Madrid B, Real Madrid, Zaragoza and Las Palmas, finally finishing up at Sociedad in July 2016. Since then, he's scored 52 goals in 143 league appearances. However, he's yet to score in his 9 appearances for Wolves to date. Jimenez's absence has put a little more on the plates of those charged with placing the ball in the back of the onion bag. Before his season was probably prematurely ended in November, Jimenez had netted 4 times. He still remains their top-scoring striker, though winger Pedro Neto, who is no relation to the European supermarket chain, and midfielder Ruben Neves both have 5 apiece. Neves' total has been augmented by the fact that he has taken 3 of the 4 penalties they've been awarded this season. On the injury front, they've received a bit of a boost in the form of a thumbs up from the medics for the availability of goalkeeper Rui Patricia. The custodian was involved in a nasty collision with Connor Cody, which must have prompted thoughts of, oh no, not again. However, sitting out the international break gave him extra recovery time, and happily the ill effects were not long-lasting. The other doubt they have is striker Daniel Podence. He missed the last 7 games with a muscle problem. However, he has been training, and a spot on the bench isn't totally out of the question at the moment. So let's move on to our usual look at the wild and wacky world of association football. And even though it was an international break, Klopp still couldn't resist one of his wines to fill the gap in between league fixtures. Klopp, it seems, doesn't understand why Terence Trent D'Arby, or whatever his name is, wasn't selected for the England squad. Well, allow me to help Jurgen. For one thing, he's never been the best in the world that you keep touting him as. Secondly, he's having a poor season. And finally, the England manager has given up on the policy of selecting any old crap in a Liverpool shirt as long as he's English, on the grounds that, well, it's worked really well in the past, hasn't it? Elsewhere, Klopp will have been dismayed by the further delay in changes to the so-called Champions League qualification process, which will result in a place for Liverpool for life, with the rest of the places to be divvied up by other means, with, if there's any space left over, a spot going to the league champions if Liverpool say so. These changes were due to be debated last month, but some old-fashioned people who happen to believe merit should be involved somewhere along the line have complained, and the decision won't happen now until mid-April. Meanwhile, outside the world of football, some lucky cove has won over £122 million in the Euro Lotto. Something that, according to the Sunday Times, has made him or her richer than Gareth Bale, only without having to kick a football. So, much like Gareth Bale then. Let's move on to us then, shall we? Well, if you can remember that far back, the 3-3 draw against Arsenal was a bit Jekyll and Hyde, wasn't it? The first 35 minutes or so were sublime. Unfortunately, when you're that far ahead, it's important to keep the collective foot on the accelerator. As we found out to our cost, once you cede momentum in a game like that, it's difficult to retain it. The fact that we only drew a game that we ought to have won was completely our own fault. Well, almost completely. Step forward John Moss, whose decisions over the course of 90 minutes were so baffling, one thought he might have been using a set of laws from a completely different sport as his guide, written in a different language, and scanned briefly before kick-off. The free kick awarded to Arsenal when Bowen had been fouled only makes sense if you believe that Bowen was plumb LBW. And stopping a game when Lingard was bearing down on goal, in case of a head injury to a player clutching his leg, plumb new depths for an official rated by the officials themselves as probably the worst of an already poor bunch. On the injury front, thankfully all those on international duty seem to have returned with little more than aching arms, courtesy of all those Man of the Match awards they had to carry back with them. Presumably Lingard and Rice shared a lift, so I checked the suspension on that car before buying it. We're edging closer and closer to a return for Arthur Masuaku. From the way Mr. Moyes was speaking pre-match, I suspect this week may be just too soon, but we are getting close to the time when he'll make the bench, with match fitness now being the issue. Ogbonna is a couple of weeks away on current progress, whilst Fornals faces a late test of his troublesome groin to see whether he'll make the squad. The two other definite non-starters will be Randolph, who'll be happy to have missed out on Ireland's defeat to a gift shop somewhere between Germany, Belgium and France, and Yarmolenko, whose knee is proving to be a slow healer. All of which leads us on to the prediction then. Chelsea's hilarious defeat to West Brom, which no doubt saw Allardyce lambasting his team for wasting 2 goals, means that the victory will see us go 4th. Now, we've had other chances to do that this season, but frankly, we shouldn't get too hung up on the mythical glow that position seems to radiate. The attitude to take to each game is to 1. Ignore league position. 2. Go out and win game. 3. Look at league position after match. 4. Laugh at Spurs for 24 hours. 5. Repeat step 1 for the next match. Concentrating on the league position, which seems to distract from the job in hand, namely winning the game in question, is something that keeps affecting us. All of which, as I write this out, I realise amounts to take each game as it comes, and laugh at Spurs for 24 hours in between, obviously. Although time spent with the squad will have been limited by the international absences, I'm sure that the Easter weekend will have been spent drilling the lessons of the Arsenal games into the collective squad brains. Man for man, our team should have enough to prevail over theirs, so assuming they go into the match in the right frame of mind, I have confidence in our ability to get a win. Let us place that £2.50 I was going to spend on a new nameplate for that ship in the Suez Canal. The SS Ruddock has a ring to it, don't you think? On an away win. Make it 2-1 to us, Mr. Winston. And enjoy the game.